Billiken fans, welcome back. It is Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well as the bell icon to get notified every time a new episode drops. Make sure you're in the comments too. Let us know what you think. Sound off on whatever we're talking about, whatever's going on right now with the Billikens. What are your thoughts on this season so far? I know there's a lot of opinions on out there, so make them known in the comments. Just be nice to each other. That'd be cool. It's season 5. Once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast. It's brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Guys, I got to tell you, all I wanted to do was go back to the hotel on Friday night and just emotionally eat like 2 jars of Two Men in a Garden salsa along with a bag of chips. Just the best salsa in the best local salsa in St. Louis. You cannot go wrong with a jar of Two Men in a Garden salsa, whether it's a party, whether you're just putting it in your fridge for a snack. Two Men in a Garden is the way to go. It's mild, medium, hot, fruit salsa. They've got it all. Look no further than Two Men in a Garden for fresh, simple ingredient salsa with a ton of flavor. Visit them online, twomeninagarden.com to shop your favorite flavors. Learn more about Kitchen Hub STL. They're really cool. Initiative. I'll say that. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. Pete, where has this I don't even know if I could say that the season's gone off the rails, because I don't think it has, but it's frustrating.
I think frustrating is a good word, Zach. Like both within games and outside of games, you just feel like it's close. There are little things that need to be fixed, improved, tweaked, that could have gone a different way, unlucky, whatever. And it's just frustrating. It's just been really frustrating to watch. It all feels like it's so close. And you wonder if things like Kellen Thames or some of the other guys who we thought we were going to have on the bench being available would be the difference. If the starting 5 being healthy throughout the season would be the difference. And little things here and there you can ask yourself, because it really does feel like we're close. And that just leads to a lot of frustrating close losses.
Yeah, it does. And you can point directly to the latest loss on Friday the 14th, Valentine's Day. I'm just glad this wasn't something that would be down the line called St. Valentine's Day Massacre. You know, like a 40-point loss, or I mean, for instance, an opposing player's family going into the stands to fight, fans from the home team. I don't know, something like that. No, it was a 78-69 loss. As I said, Pete, this game flew by, especially for a nationally televised game.
Yeah, it really did, Zach. I guess the in-arena experience probably had something to do with that, but it did kind of feel like that. Like there's been a lot of talk about there should be more than 2 hours available, right, for college basketball games, and whether that's 2:15 or 2:30, we need to give more time between games. But this for whatever reason, this one did seem to kind of move at a pace. There weren't many delays.
There was a stretch where Lloyd, I think, what I think is a lot of it had to do with that stretch of 8 minutes where Loyola could not buy a bucket, and it was just very sloppy back and forth. That seemed like a long time without a whistle.
Yeah, there were a couple times. That was one of them where we got the media timeout like 2 minutes after it was supposed to happen, right? Like there were a couple stretches like that. So this one back and forth, you're right, not a whistle, but Loyola. The thing that was so frustrating, to come back to that theme, SLU wasn't playing great offense during the stretch, right? So we couldn't really run away with it.
Yeah.
Stop after stop on defense, like really getting Loyola to take bad shots, turn it over, like just various reasons.
This game should have been won in that first 20 minutes.
It really should have been. But then coming down at the other end and not really having a lot of ideas on offense. And just not like they weren't terrible during this stretch, but it's a time where you could have kind of run away with this game if that good offense or that good defense led to good offense. But the offense just couldn't get out of its way, couldn't build up enough of a lead. So by the time you get to halftime, SLU's up by just 2 points. And it just didn't feel like enough, especially it would have been 5 and Loyola hit a late shot there. Huge missed opportunity to go 8 minutes holding them to nothing and not be able to run away with it.
Yeah, I think, again, it's Loyola played good defense, I thought, but, again, it's another game where the Billikens turn it over. Like there weren't a ton of turnovers, 10, we talk about that being the threshold for a good turnover game or a bad turnover game. They had 12. But once again, it's their turnovers that just are baffling.
Right. It's a lot of passes that aren't there, for example.
Yeah.
It's those kind of ones that just drive you insane.
But not to jump ahead, but again, the turnovers are the kind that really just drive you absolutely insane because it's a Kalu Anya getting it stripped because he wasn't paying attention to the backside. Robbie started the game that way.
Yeah.
It's those kind of turnovers, and it's frustrating. It really is because you're not giving yourself a chance.
Yeah. So I want to get to a couple brutal turnovers because I want to fast forward to coming out of the under 12 media timeout. Loyola ran a lob play on the inbound under to Miles Rubin for the dunk. Then you've got that Kalu Anya that you're talking about, turned it over. Loyola missed, gets the offensive rebound, kicks it out to Sheldon Edwards for the 3. Jimerson misses a 3, and then Loyola makes a layup after another offensive rebound. SLU was up 6 before that and came out of that down 1. So they were up 7 with 14:22 left to play and didn't score for almost 5 minutes. That run that we just discussed happened during that stretch. And then we're tied at the under 4 media timeout. SLU coughs it up on the inbounds. Loyola hits a 3, turnover, Loyola 3, turnover, dunk. 8-0 run, just like that. It ends up being an 11-0 run in the midst of an 11-0 run, but 8 points before you could blink. And you go from a tied game at the under 4 to a game that seems like it's completely out of hand. The energy in the crowd is completely, in Loyola's favor. And you could just see on the body language, like what happened here. It completely got away from them. And so you're right, like 12 is not a huge number for turnovers, but they really have a knack for timing them in a way that just feels backbreaking.
Yeah, it feels like there's not a lot of, I don't know. I at the times they need to be locked in, it just seems that this team goes aloof.
Right.
I don't know what to, they have a penchant for giving up these blink of an eye runs that just either turn a game from, the Billikens are running with it to, oh no, now we're down 1, or a tie game that's back and forth and it's out of hand.
Yeah, they kind of play every game with a razor thin margin. It's both, locking it down defensively and not being able to convert at the offensive end, right? So the missed opportunity of not building leads, and then at the other side, your defense is so good for so long for like huge stretches of the game. And then in the blink of an eye, you've let up 8 points here or there. And those things kind of add up. Those things really add up. They just need to be, I really, in this game, to me, it came down to the offense. Like you can play really good defense and give up a couple spurts like that. But you didn't give yourself enough of a cushion to do so.
It's, I don't know. I don't. Are we hanging this on? I mean, what are we hanging this on? Because all I hear about is how the bench are freshmen and they make freshman mistakes. But when I see this stuff, it's our seniors, it's our grad students
Mhm.
making these dumb plays. I think the one, I mean, what it was, Kahlua Jr., sophomore,
Junior, yeah.
junior. I mean, again,
Mhm.
upperclassmen. I just don't know. I don't know. Do the freshmen make more mistakes? I don't know. It's annoying because I think there's an opportunity to maybe help out whatever's. I mean, this team is seeming to lose gas down the stretch. I think that's becoming a trend.
So, I mean, it's a few things we talked about, their inability to capitalize and put a run together, right? Like there's so many chances to go up 7 or 10, and then they'd miss a three or turn it over, and Loyola would convert at the other end, and it would just be a tie game or a close game, one possession game again in an instant. Another thing, Zach, is they only force 7 turnovers. I know the defense is not like built around creating a lot of steals, but you got to get more than 7, right? I mean, I think they had 5 in the game before this, as we'll get into.
I will say they did force some really tough shots and they did play some really good defense and
Yeah,
at times and a couple times they just got Loyola just got bailed out.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
That's right.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a team that doesn't have a lot of those lucky bounces, right? Another thing you brought up is, do we get our shots blocked a lot? It seems like we do have a knack for getting shots blocked. And in this game, it felt like Swope, anytime he took it inside, was getting blocked. Swope is not a tall guy, as you and I know. Miles Rubin, very good shot blocker, good instincts, and a ton of length. And that just seemed like it was bound to happen every time he took it inside. Just wasn't able to get any clean looks that way. Go ahead.
Well, one of the other things that's kind of changed over the last two games is the 3-point shooting against Pete. We saw Woody Newton. I'll never forget that dude's name. Like
Yeah,
what a dopey name. Like it's just a Woody Newton. It's just a
he
very
sounds like he played 70 years ago.
yes. Yes, he did. He had a masterful hook shot, that Woody Newton. He played for the Kentucky Colonels.
That's right. That's right.
Um, no, this game it was all about Sheldon Edwards. Well, it was a lot. It was a lot of them. I think back and they were freaking out over Sheldon Edwards on Twitter. But again, Jaden Dawson 6 of 9 from 3. Des Watson 2 of 5. Every one of their top 3 was good from beyond
Yeah.
the arc. I don't know what's changed. I do know that I need to see a change in rules in basketball, and we'll
Yeah.
get to that. But what is has it felt like Loyola figured out that if you just move the ball as fast as possible, make our guys chase a guy around the court, we're gonna run out of steam eventually.
Yeah, I mean they still have to hit the open shots though, right? I mean, like that's that's kind of the thing that I bang my head against the table, and yeah, they get good looks, and I know Shirts mentioned sometimes we went under screens when we shouldn't have. I thought we were doing, after they were a little bit hot in the first half, for a while we were doing a good job on
Yeah.
switching everything and staying with guys and not giving them a looks, but they kind of got away from that a little bit. I can't explain the shooting. Loyola was 12 of 24, 50%. They're a 35% team on the season. So, that's a huge margin. And I know that happens from time to time, but one guy went off again. It was Jaden Dawson this time, 6 of 9 from 3. Sheldon Edwards, 4 of 6. Des Watson, 2 of 5. So that's their top 3 right there. They're all great from outside. Slew wasn't bad on the other side, 11 of 29, but they just missed them at the worst times, right? And Robbie went 2 for 9. Shot well, but not well enough to compensate for that. I don't know what it is. I think Shirts and the staff have said there is an element of teams are hitting a higher percentage of open looks from 3 than they should be. So I guess there's an element of luck there, but just got to figure out a way not to give them as many open looks, right? It's the thing, like with Woody Newton in that previous game. Even if it's not a guy who you've scouted or game planned around being a real threat. At some point, you have to recognize what's happening. And I don't know how many that takes, whether that's his second or third make or something like that. But it can't be his, fifth or sixth, because by then the damage is done.
As far as the 3-point shooting in this game, though, it really feels like they saw an exploit in whatever the Billikens are doing on defense.
Yeah.
And that corner three was there pretty much all night. And I got to say, I'm getting really sick of the trend of screens in basketball. And like, I'm not like that. Like I would classify every single one of those screens as moving in some way. I'm also sick and tired of that you can like immediately switch your screen. Like you can just turn around a guy.
Yeah.
I can't, I think that's insane. And we need to figure something out with screens because I realize that we're offense. That's what brings chicks dig the long ball. So I get that, but like it's insane. I don't know. I thought they were setting moving screens fairly consistently all night. Speaking of officiating, my God, it started with a bizarre technical on Des Watson. Did we ever get an explanation on that?
I missed the first. It was right in the beginning of the game, right?
He touched the ball and they teed him up.
Yeah, I missed the first few minutes, due to just the general chaos of like getting kids kind of settled into whatever they're going to do. But yeah, I don't have an explanation for it. But you're right. It did kind of set a tone. That I felt like was kind of held throughout the night, that everything was just a little bit off.
Yes.
In terms of the officiating.
What did we get an answer on Amari McCautry's technical?
So he it was the way that he, I'm trying to think of how it was. Like he had his forearm out, right? Did he kind of hook somebody? It was like the way he had his arm extended and kind of grabbed a guy. He kind of like hooked him a little bit, that they thought was egregious. And yeah, I mean, it was clearly a violation, whatever, they gave him a flagrant for it. And, I didn't have a big gripe with that one. I thought it was okay. So I don't know.
I mean, I think, even like I would go, I was talking to random people and everybody was like, what is going on out there? I mean, there was, I think someone was like, oh yeah, Robbie got thrown to the ground. And this was a Loyola fan. They're like, Robbie got you could see him dragging him to the ground. And they're like, I don't understand what happened there.
That's one of the things that even the Loyola friendly announcers were kind of picking up on, was that they were really, with Robbie and with Jimerson, they were really grabbing their jerseys. Like a lot. I know we always talk about the way Jimerson gets harassed around all over the court, but they really, with both him and Avila, keeping them close, but in a way that was just like you can't just tug on guys like that. So they were doing that all night for sure. But again, it's the Patino style. Like let's test them early, see what they're calling, and if they're not calling it, keep doing it.
Yeah.
So in a way, I begrudgingly respect it. I just hate always being on the wrong end of that. But speaking of Robbie, I think it's safe to say he's back. Outside of the 2 of 9 shooting from 3, he was 6 of 17 overall, which I don't love.
He went 2 of 9 from 3.
2 of 9, yeah.
You could have fooled me. I thought he went like, I thought he was at least 40%, 35%.
No, he missed a few late. I think that had something to do with it. I think he was like 2 of 5 at one point, but flirted with a triple double, 19, 13, and 7. Shooting and finishing obviously being the issue there, but I think it's safe to say he's back, after the last couple of games. I know he had a rough stretch before that, but wanted to show out in front of some Chicago friends and family. Yeah,
I thought he was great. And I thought even without his with his finishing being an issue, I thought he did a great job of drawing fouls. I don't think he shot particularly well at the free throw line again. I think free throw shooting, as much as it doesn't directly or numerically add up to that loss, I think it's, again, there's so many instances of team morale, I feel like, where it just crushes you to miss the front end or not get the 3-point play.
Yeah. Right.
So
yeah, completely. It's all timing, right? Well, we keep coming back to it, but they have this incredible knack for bad timing. Jimerson, 20 points on a bum ankle. He's a warrior, man. I don't know what else to say about him.
It was good to see him get, back in a groove. You worried that potentially the ankle could be an ongoing issue with, or would have been an issue for his shooting in that first game after the injury.
Yeah.
So it was great to see him make shots. I thought he dug into his Jack Golke bag a little bit. He was shooting a lot more, the white hairs would call them circus shots.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, he took some risks on like off the dribble stuff that was like on a 2-on-1, for example. He took stuff like that.
Oh, by the way, when he did that,
yeah,
super mad at him for that. I was so mad at him for that.
Did you catch any bench reaction? That's what I always look for on those.
I was on the other side of the court.
Yeah. Okay.
I was on that end, and the thing about that play is that as much as Jimerson can shoot the damn ball, man, is he good going to the hoop. And that's where I think, the early blocks from Loyola set a tone.
Yes.
I think Jimerson goes to the basket with that if, Loyola doesn't get those early blocks.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I gotta say, the 8-day break coming up, I feel happy for Jimerson.
Yes, I feel happy for the whole team.
For the whole team. I really hope they don't go hard in practice. I mean, go hard in film sessions, go hard in rest and recovery. But man, get these bodies back as close to 100% as you can.
No kidding.
Swope had 12. He had 3 assists and 4 turnovers. He looked confident in his one-on-one matchup, but then every time he'd penetrate, he didn't seem to have much of a plan, right? He'd either dribble back out, turn it over, get his layup attempt block, as we talked about before. But I could just tell on the first matchup, he looked like he wanted to take him every time.
Yeah.
And then just didn't have anything beyond that. And it was kind of frustrating because I think the plan should have been beat him off the dribble and then kick or dish, right? Because, draw Ruben out, and rather than try and take a layup, give it to Robbie, get it out to Jimerson, get it out to Kobe, he's got to make better reads on that kind of stuff. And this is where I think him not being a true point guard sort of comes into focus.
Yeah, it reminds me of kind of what I would have done is just not be sure that I could get to the basket.
Yeah.
Like it just was like, it's like he kept second guessing himself.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know why, let's go, be aggressive, attack, take the game to them. And he just decided to bring it out, and then we would get nothing.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
But I liked him in this game. I thought his turnovers were obviously not good enough. It's just, I don't know what the happy medium is with Isaiah Swope.
Right.
And that when, if this team can find that, where Swope isn't turning the ball over, but maybe isn't contributing as much offensively, I think that's where this team gets marginally better.
Well, unfortunately, I think it's having him next to a true point guard, and we really don't have, we just don't have that.
Yeah. Let's see. Kobe Johnson, man. He's becoming, this is so Javon Bess
That's actually, I mean, he's kind of shaping into that kind of player. He's a little bit quieter than
Yes.
Javon Best, I think, overall, but um,
Offensively, he's quieter.
that's not a bad comp at all. I mean, Best, I think he averaged about 14 a season, in his 2 seasons with us. When you look at Kobe lately, he's certainly doing something similar to that. Looking back at his past 8 games, you've got 14, 8, 21, 11, 9, 19, 11, 10. His numbers are a little bit slimmer before that game about a month ago. The LaSalle game is when he really started to come into his own. But yeah, Zach, lately, 35 or so minutes a game he's averaging, maybe more. He's playing great defense. He's really, really steady from offense. When you look at his 3-point shooting numbers, it's never a lot of attempts. The most attempts in that stretch is 5. But he's always making, 1 of 2, 2 of 5, 2 of 3, 3 of 4, 1 of 2. The only time he made under 50% from 3 lately, he went 1 of 3 against George Mason. Just really fantastic efficiency, to go with everything else he's doing.
It's almost beyond comprehension that this team is not winning. You've got a guy like Johnson stepping up like that, who's your fourth best, or like fourth option.
Yeah.
And he is giving you that sort of production. Like, what is going, like,
Yeah.
If Avila is going to play okay, Jimerson plays okay, Swope plays okay, Kobe Johnson plays above expectation. Where are we losing this? I don't. I'm lost.
I know. It's tough. I mean, you've got Kalu Anya, in this game. He's usually not a big offensive threat. He had 4, 6, and 5 in this game. Not bad if other guys are scoring. I think
he was instrumental in that kind of game-changing turnover.
I think that the issues here is like Swope was under his average, and Avila, even though he was just over it, just wasn't efficient, right? So I think it has to do more. It doesn't necessarily mean like everybody has a good enough game that should do it. We do still have to be efficient, right? And so that's I don't know. I think that's kind of part of the problem.
That's why Kobe Johnson's play is so welcome, is his efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, he unquestionably.
Let's talk about the bench. It seems to be a running discussion. So we got 0 bench points. And Pete, I'm just going to say that I was on record as saying that we needed to try to bring this bench along, and we probably should use them even if they're not giving us the best minutes.
Yeah, and that was 12 minutes, right? 0 points, 12 minutes. I think, I've been, I guess I would say disagreeing on you to some degree. We have a difference of philosophy on how to handle the bench. And
yeah.
I tend to be less bullish on their ability to contribute to wins in the short term, but I do think you have to find more than 12 minutes for them, right? Like that's just, you got to find more than that. I don't know. If nothing else, create a mismatch, do something to the other team's scout that they're not ready for. We've got Brockhoff. I'm still convinced he can make a shot. Warlick, I think this is a game where Warlick could have kind of shown us a little bit more. McCautry seems to have gone quickly back into the doghouse after his UMass heroics. So I don't know what's going on, man. I just
Picard gave us good minutes, and you have a guy where you have a time where Anya goes out with foul trouble. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We're playing well with Picard in the game. It's not necessarily. I don't know. I feel like you just let it ride with what's working. If Picard's in the game and we're up and things aren't trending in a negative direction, ride that lineup.
Right.
Ride as long as when you have your bench in the game and nothing and you're running point for point with a team, ride it. Why not? Like I
Yeah, and
don't
I think
know.
if you start to see something like them exploiting a mismatch or something, right? If they've got a big body who's just taking it to Picard or something like that, like there are limitations as to what you can ride out, but I don't think that was this game.
No.
Loyola's not a super physical team, now that what was his name, Alston is gone, and he was kind of their main scorer and just like a really really physical guy, kind of gave them a little bit different composition than really now they have their big three or three guards who really aren't very big physical guys, and then down low they've got a really long center, but this is just not a bully kind of team. So I think some of the younger guys, the Euro guys, the finesse guys on the bench can give you a little bit here, and then a guy like Warlick or McCautry, certainly a more young physical element than the other two bigs bring. So I don't know. I don't disagree that we needed more than 12 bench minutes. We're now dead last in the country in bench minutes and bench points, and that seems to be a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem, especially when you're kind of fading late in games too.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure. I think bottom line in this game, Matt Rocchio said it well. Even with the 3-point shooting and higher than normal point total for Loyola, this game was the offense failing the defense. They could not go on runs or capitalize on opportunities. Every time they had a chance to take control of the game, they just couldn't. And it felt like it was just out there for the taking. Just like the game before it, which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, Zach, I don't know. These last couple losses have have left me feeling a little more dejected than I have been previously, because the opportunities were so right there in front of us.
yeah, it's weird because I've been I've been fairly critical, I think, early in the season, and then I got onto the bandwagon a little more. I started drinking the Kool-Aid a little
Sure.
bit there, and then it just kind of like morphed back into pre-conference Billikens, and I don't know. I just don't know what to do, like what this team can do at this point.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
there
for
felt
sure.
like there were things that could be changed or adjusted before conference, and now it's just like, okay, I guess this is what we have. I don't know,
Right.
or that there's not any adjustments made, right?
Right.
I feel like you have to give somebody on your bench a chance to change the equation here. If you're going to continue to kind of drop games, especially by fading away late in games, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I still think this team has a fairly high ceiling. It's just not happening.
Yeah. I don't know what it is that gets them to just play better
No,
together, to kind of get rid of the things that are leading to turnovers, these ill-advised pass attempts, right? What are the things that can help them sort of string together offensive possessions in a row that the way that they are doing defensively? What are the things that can get them to stop the kind of mini runs we see that can be so backbreaking in a game where you're not piling up points? So definitely some big questions to answer in this little off week, but I don't know. I think they're still capable of a run, but it just gets harder and harder with every loss.
yeah, and again, I don't think it's going to happen with the five starters playing 40 minutes.
Yeah,
I
probably
don't.
not.
I think we're going the opposite way here. Like that's what
Yeah,
I like with the minutes. I think we're going like we started to see the freshmen and the bench get run, and now we're going back away from it, and we're still losing. So at what point do you? I don't know. Give it a chance.
yeah.
Um,
So
plus,
what?
you get I'm again. Plus, you can see what you have potentially for next season. Right, it's weird to even go into what could happen next season because again, we may not have Robbie. May be the only player we see again on this roster next year. Who knows?
I think it's going to look a lot different. I mean, I think we'll have Anya back. The younger guys, it's always a matter of like kind of what they want to do, and you know, like whether they accept whatever role is kind of laid out for them. If they feel like there's a satisfying roadmap here for them, so they're harder to predict now than they've ever been. But I don't know. Yeah, you're right. You know, you have to expect that we're going to lose 3 of 5 starters. You don't know what Thames is going to be like. You don't know what some of the other, you know, is Dotzler going to be 100%. So there are some concerns there as well. And yeah, man, I don't know. I guess we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but nonetheless, I think we're going to be seeing a much different roster next season. But in the meantime, Zach, I want to hear about your trip. What was Loyola like? What was, you know, Chicago like? What was, it seemed like you saw some people up there.
Yeah, it was cold as shit.
Yeah.
It's cold as shit now in St. Louis. I brought it back. Sorry, folks. By the way, I gotta, well, we'll start with the game. Loyola, Gentile Arena is the worst arena in the league, I think, for concessions. I think that's kind of,
I've heard that.
yeah. I don't know if you've been, but they had a golf, like a facility for the golf team that was like an office space, almost like a big, kind of like, I don't know, the size of an RV. No, bigger than that. It's like the length of an RV, maybe.
Okay.
But you know, but they turned it into like a little market type deal where you go and pick up your stuff and go to the counter.
Okay. Weird.
So
yeah,
they
actually
alleviated a little bit from the pressure.
To answer your question, I have been there, but not since we played there like 06, 07, somewhere around there when I was living in Chicago. So it hadn't been renovated yet. It was, you know, that was a couple conferences ago for them. Anyway, back to your notes.
But it you know, we were able to get drinks fairly quickly, except I think they ran out pretty quickly of like Michelob Ultra. Bud Light, all that was like they ran out of the seltzers and all that stuff.
Sure.
By mid second half, I guess, or early second half, honestly. So that was better. I love that size arena. I dream of an alternate reality where SLU is playing in a 5,000, 7,500 seat arena. Because I think we would absolutely just have the best atmosphere in the league at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine otherwise. Yeah.
The SLU fans, by the way, a lot of SLU fans got to talk to a handful of people that were there. But there was SLU fans in pretty much every section of the arena. They get, you know, a few chants got going. It's defense on a couple of possessions, and then an SAINT. You know, that was early in the game, but you know, it felt like there was an opportunity for the Billiken fans in the arena to really like get into it, and SLU just could never make that right play.
Right.
And then, you know, after a while, they got the dunks started going down for Loyola. The three started going, and Loyola fans really got into it at that point. Yeah. Loyola fans were cool. I didn't really kind of interact. I interacted with like the people behind me. They were cool. Yeah, I like that arena. The scoreboard stinks on the end. It's impossible to tell how many fouls anybody has because it's too small all the way on the other end, but you can't see it turning around. It's hard to see. So that sucks.
So I missed you either don't have the size or you don't have the angle, basically.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't get to see Sister Jean's prayer. So that was.
Did they do that over the intercom, over the loudspeaker?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I missed it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was getting, I don't know. I think I got there when they were about ready to start the anthem.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was.
He does it a little early.
Yeah. By the way, Chicago, I don't know what the hell they do with snow removal. I don't know where the snow all goes, but like, it was really coming down Friday night, and then I'm like, oh great, like So I kind of wanted to go for a run on Saturday morning. And I was like, oh, well, it snowed. Like, there's no way this is going to be nasty out there. I walk outside. You could tell me that it didn't snow, and I would be like, oh, I guess I dreamt that.
They're just used to it.
Yeah, there was no snow. It was crazy. Yeah, Chicago's fun. Got up there around 3. Traffic was pretty rough getting in. Well, not rough for Chicago standards, but it was, it was interesting. Went to the wrong hotel, went to South Loop and not Central Loop. Whole big thing. Got that sorted. Couldn't really figure out a good place to eat it's paralysis of choice. I feel like up there.
Sure.
Like there's just like you don't really know what you're looking for either. I don't know. I was struggling to find like a decent place. We ended up at Beard and Belly, which had your name written all over it.
Or my description.
Yeah, it was cool. Good. I had a burger, some fries. I had a couple of craft beers. You'd appreciate that.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. Ran into Ross Chaffetz on the way to my seat. Yeah, there was quite a few Billiken fans behind the bench and then in the corners. But yeah, it was a good atmosphere. Had a few beers, too many, and I had never been to the Riverwalk, so I went and did that on Saturday. Weirdly, I'd never been over there. It was cold as shit.
Just literally like the walking. Okay.
I had never seen that big ass building with the boat docks underneath it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Went to a place called Eggy's. It's I don't know. It's a diner. It was fine. I got chicken and waffles, which is kind of my standard like brunch. But like I didn't read that it was a half chicken, so I'm expecting just like some strips or like boneless chicken, and then it's like I don't know how to eat this. I felt like an idiot. But yeah, no, it was cold, and it was cold. Nothing really stood out. I don't think. Yeah, we didn't really get out because we were gonna go somewhere after, and then it was just snowing, and I did not feel like driving or getting in an Uber or what, so.
Yeah, that city, man. The difference between the energy in Chicago between summer and winter is monumental. I mean, like it gets. I remember working up there, and it was dark before I'd leave the office. Like well before I left the office, it was dark like 4:30, like in there.
Yeah.
And then it's frigid. It's freezing cold. You just want to go home. And then in the summer, it feels like nobody works. Like they're just out all the time, like just enjoying it. So it really it's a huge seasonal whiplash living there, like way more than in St. Louis or Cincinnati or anywhere else where I've spent time.
Why are dudes not going to Loyola Chicago basketball games, like students? Because there is like the student section was filled, and I mean, I don't know if it was filled, but like there was maybe 10 dudes. Guys, there's opportunity here, people. What are we doing? It was bizarre. I was like,
I feel like I noticed that last season when we played them. I like there were those 4 girls right behind the announcers
screaming into
up on the mic.
Oh.
Yeah. But then when they zoomed out and you could see the bigger section, I remember thinking they have a way different ratio than a lot of other student sections, I would say. Yeah,
I don't know. It was again, I don't know what the excuse me, the enrollment statistics are, male versus female, but like it's SLU's. I thought SLU had way more women at basketball games when I was in. Loyola is it's completely female. It's crazy. But yeah, their atmosphere is good. I can't believe like SLU. The amount of people that would go to a SLU game would sell that place out every game in St. Louis.
Yeah.
That St. Louis University would sell out an arena that size every game.
I don't disagree with you. What is the size? Do you know off the top of your head? Like it looks like 5,000 ish.
Yeah, that's what I would have said. I think it's definitely bigger than SIUE.
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
By the way,
Loyola 4,500.
4,500. Okay. So yeah, a little under 5 then. You're not wrong. Their student body is in fall 2023. It's at over 2/3 female, 68% to under 32%.
Boys. Go to Loyola, Chicago.
That is wild, man.
Yes.
Like it's almost 70% female.
Yes. I thought SLU was female. SLU was shooting fish in a barrel, so to speak.
Well, a lot of schools have been 60-40 for ish, give or take for a while. I mean, unless you go to like an engineering school or something. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, good Lord. What are you doing? There's a beautiful university.
You don't even have to try.
It's female.
You don't even have to try to meet women. Loyola or SIUE is just over 4,000.
That's what they're okay.
Yeah, so that it's interesting because SIUE's sides go way higher than Loyola. Yeah, but there's nothing in the back.
Right, there's Loyola has the ends. They don't have the ends, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, Chicago, it's a place. It's a lot of people. It's so interesting because it's just you. I don't know. Screw it. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares about my thoughts on Chicago. 76-74 loss against George Mason on Tuesday, the 11th. I mean, Gibson Jimerson's in the lineup, 127th consecutive game. I mean, he was sandbagging, right? He played 45 minutes.
I mean, people are telling us his ankle's purple, right? They're making it sound like basically he had his foot amputated and then sewn back on. I don't question his toughness at all. But in 45 minutes, he scored 9 points, Zach, on 3 of 14 shooting, 2 of 11 from 3, 1 of 3 from the free throw line with 6 rebounds. He missed 2 free throws with 1:18 left in regulation. So you have to ask yourself, number one, should he have played? Maybe he just needed this game to get used to playing on kind of a sore ankle. And number two, should he have played that much? Right. I mean, I know you don't have great options if you don't have Gibson Jimerson, but my, oh my, not his best shooting night.
Yeah, again, I guess we have the benefit of hindsight here, watching him play at Loyola, and playing well. He missed 2 free throws with one. I mean, I think he should have played again, but I'm saying, like, why are we playing guys 40 minutes?
Well, 45 in this case.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We need to be accurate.
To never come out and then have to go back in and do it in overtime on a purplish, greenish, yellowish ankle is it sounds miserable to me, Zach, but what do I know? Look,
that's what I've been saying now.
We heard ourselves with a bad start again, had to play their way back into it, right? Got down 9 early, went into halftime down 2. And then got down 10 in the second half. Once again, erased a 7-point deficit with 2 minutes left, this time putting it into overtime after that Isaiah Swope 3. I hate having the last second heroics, having to rely on those to get back in it, because sometimes you just don't have those, right? Like we got to within 4 late in that Loyola game, even after they went on that 11-0 run, and just didn't quite have enough in the tank. So sometimes you get it, sometimes most of the time you don't. I hate having to end games like that.
Yeah. It was wild. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It was very much the same emotional roller coaster is TJ Hargrove.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that like, well, yeah, of course it was the same thing because he tied the game with whatever time. Like it was the same exact stuff, but like it was the same level of like, okay, sure. Oh yeah, sure. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. When did that happen quickly?
Right.
So you didn't like I don't know. It wasn't as exciting as I thought. I don't know. I think the whole start of the game kind of ruined it for me, but it was crazy. It was an amazing effort by the Billikens to make that comeback. You just really want to see it from the outset.
Sure. My I think we need to talk about this inbound play, Zach.
Yes.
Slews down one with just over 10 seconds left when George Mason's inbounder stepped on the line for what was a surprisingly long time, right? He not only stepped on the line, he kind of like leaned into it, like physically leaned into it. Like that was his balance foot for a minute there. Couple seconds, fine. Slew's whole bench pointed at it. There was no call. They got the ball in, got fouled, made the free throws down 3. You know, that's what Swope had to tie from. But I guess this set off a whole debate as to whether that's actually a violation or not. And
I believe this is a bad rule.
So the determination is like if you're inbounds and you step on the out of bound line anywhere on the line, you're out of bounds. So then if you're out of bounds and you step on the line, you're not inbounds, it's not a violation unless you cross the inner edge of the stripe, right? So like there's the white or black or whatever color on your home floor the stripe is, your foot has to not just go on the line, but all the way over the edge for that to be a violation on the inbounds. So that there's like the whole stripe is not the line, just the inner edge of it, right? I understand that conceptually, if that is the rule, if that's the right rule. I've never seen it necessarily called like that, though. Like it has always felt like to me, if somebody steps on that line inbounding the ball, it's a whistle. And maybe I just happen to have never seen someone step on it and not over it. But I think it's wild if the ref saw that and didn't call it with that thought, right? Because
Yes.
I feel like any ref, had he seen it, would have blown the whistle. And I feel like in this case, that's not where his eyes were. You want to give him the benefit of the doubt and that's the rule and he called it right and he saw it. But we'll never get an explanation.
No. And there are so many things in this game I think we could point to and say we could really use an explanation.
What else sticks out?
I mean, I think the amount of travels that were committed and not called by Haynes. I thought the only time he could really get a bucket was when he was allowed to kind of drag the pivot foot or shuffle. I didn't think, it was, look, again, I'm not asking for plays where we get, the other team gets jobbed. I'm just like, I would like the 50-50 calls to go our way for once.
Yeah.
At home. Yeah, it doesn't happen. I mean, I kind of thought about talking about it more in the Loyola game, but it's just, it felt like every 50-50 whistle goes against us, or every bizarre play, or every time we get close, there's a foul called. And yes, I can understand that players foul in those tight situations. It just feels like the bizarre oft or never. No, it's the opposite of oft. Never. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The never called stuff really. Yeah, the rarely called stuff goes against us. It's just we're always finding a new rule that we have to look up that got called against us. That's my point, and I'm tired. You hate
to be in that position, Googling away angrily after a game. Like, did they call that right? Did they no call that right.
Yeah.
Very, very frustrating. But so the fact of the matter is SLU could only muster 4 points in overtime. They had to foul late to put Mason on the line, and that was pretty much it. I mean, Mason only scored 6 in overtime. The offense came up empty way too much down the stretch and in overtime. I thought there was just not enough movement, and I said as much, and people were just kind of like, well, they're gassed, you know? Sure, they were. I mean, they all played 40 plus minutes, every single one of them, 40 to 45 minutes. But if they had enough in the tank to defend Mason on every possession, and the defense was very good in this game and in overtime, honestly, why not give yourself better looks at the other end, right? Like you can't just say we're giving 100% on defense so that we can give 75% on offense and then just not move and let Swope dribble and stand on the perimeter and catch your breath and hope one of you's open and hope one of you makes a shot. The point is, like, Mason was not running away with this game. I think they had enough to throw a few more looks at him offensively and just didn't.
Yeah. And again, it's another one of those games where we watched. I can't remember what game. What game was it that I was so excited about the manufacturing of baskets? It's another game, 2 games in a row where we don't see that come back.
Yeah,
we saw it in large doses in that game, and then we haven't seen it in these 2.
Yeah,
and these are games you're looking at. That Loyola game where we're down 8, or we're up 8, or no, sorry, we're up, and for 8 minutes Loyola can't make a basket. Why don't we go and deliberately try to force our way in there? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, and the thing was, like, when we actually did play offense in this game, it was really good. Like 1.1 points per possession against Mason is the best anyone has done against them this season, which is, to their credit, crazy. They're an outstanding defensive team. They really are. So the offense was good when they focused, when they wanted to run it. I just felt like late in the game they just got away from that. And if that's fatigue, I just think you have to be mentally tough enough to overcome that. And I'm sorry, and it sucks that they don't have more of a bench, but that's just kind of the reality.
Yeah.
And look, we had the return of Robbie Avila in this game. He was great.
Yeah,
27 points, 9
rebounds. Before we give Robbie his credit, I just want to the Mason's defense wasn't even the reason we lost this game. Like, I don't think they were the reason we lost this game. I think our self-inflicted wounds really killed us in this game. I thought half of our turnovers in this one weren't forced. I think we gave away half of these turnovers. It wasn't Mason stealing the ball from us the majority of the time, at least from my point of view.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, like, look, it's a 2-point loss, so you can point to literally whatever you want and say this was the difference, right? Like, and so I think that's an absolutely valid reason. You know, to me, I'll skip ahead a little bit to Woody Newton, who we hinted at in the last game. 27 points. He set a Chaffetz Arena record with 8 3-pointers on 12 attempts. There's nothing about Woody Newton this season or in his career that would have indicated this was possible. Career 296 3-point shooter, 296, who has never averaged over 1 made 3-pointer a game for a season. This season, he's at 0.9 on 3 attempts a game, both career highs, shooting 31%. Sorry, these are the numbers coming into this game. He's probably over 1 now. He's only attempted more than 6 in a game once this season. When he went 6 of 8 against a lower division school, Ferrum, if anyone's ever heard of that school, that's the only time that he made more than 3 in a game all year. He only hit 3 once, so he's good for 0 to 2 a game. Before hitting 2 against Rhode Island last week, he went 5 consecutive games without making 1 at all. It makes absolutely no sense. So to me, this is the difference in the game, right? Several of his makes actually came on well-contested shots. Yeah. He was just unconscious for a while. He also got some open looks a couple times with guys going under screens, a couple times on miscommunications, like one of either his 7th or 8th one. Going under screens, I'm fine with at first based on his profile until you recognize that he's feeling it. Like we talked about in the last game, you have to make that adjustment. I think Slew eventually did, but not until that damage was done. I was also hoping that the Mason offense would get bogged down trying to get him the ball, getting out of their game plan, right, to try and feed the hot hand, and then hoping he would cool off. But he didn't even attempt another three after making his eighth. I think he got hurt. I missed him going out, but he didn't really play much after that. Kobe Johnson is also part of the reason, but he was on the bench for a while too. So to me, Woody Newton is the difference in this game. And when you have a guy playing like that, to circle back to turnovers, Zach, you've got to protect the ball. You've got to value the ball, to quote our pals. Like this is just. You don't, if a guy is hitting 8 or 9 3-pointers, you don't have the ability to then go down there and be reckless on offense with your passing.
And we're going to get to that, the reckless nature of the Billikens. But first, of course, we need to give flowers to, on this week after Valentine's Day, Robbie Avila, 27 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 3 turnovers, 11 of 18 from the field, 5 of 10 from 3, 0 of 2 from the line. And he started out playing like dog poo in this game.
He did. Well, he did, but the one thing that I could see was he was more assertive. So he wasn't executing necessarily in those early minutes, but he was clearly asserting himself. He was. I know he came out and said he was disappointed with himself. Nobody was more upset than he was after his previous 3 games. Fine, that's all well and good. He clearly got the message and was playing hard, if nothing else. And it eventually started to click. I was worried when he missed his first 4 3-point attempts.
Yeah.
But then he only missed 1 more. He really found his shot after that. So I'm glad he didn't just throw in the towel, Zach. Yeah. I mean, oh God, was he essential in this game?
Yeah, the offense is obviously better when he is scoring the basketball.
So different.
Reckless. Swope had 22 in this game. He hit that absolutely clutch shot late to tie the game. Man, he does not make it easy when he's not playing well.
4 first half turnovers. Some of the misses came on really ill-advised shot attempts.
Yeah.
I guess at least we can say he got going in this game after the rough start. There are a lot of times where you're like pulling your hair out at what he does, and then you look down and you're like, oh, he's got 20 points. So you can't really stay mad at Swope most of the time. Just the turnovers and some of the shot selection drive me up a wall sometimes.
Kalu Anya, 15 boards, 5 assists. He leads the team again in assist. And once again, I really would have loved to see more of that 2-man manufacture game in the paint area. I assume Haynes has something to do with that. Just as whoever's patrolling the paint for Loyola may have. I don't know. I'd love to see more of it though. I think it's some of the best offense we run.
Yeah, I mean that was just about to be my comment. Is that kind of feels like when we're at our best, right? When we have that working, that communication, that playing off of each other like that. It seems like they've never been able to sort of sustain that. No. You can see it for most of a game in some of our better games, but I don't know. We get away from it too much.
Yeah, I don't think it's one of those. I don't necessarily think it's a style of offense or a form of offense that you can rely on for 40 minutes. But I do think that it needs to rear its head at least once a game.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of what we've all been wanting, right? Like when we was from the moment you hire a Josh Shirts. Kobe Johnson, as much as we've praised him lately, ended up with 8 and 5, quieter than he's been lately. I thought he was solid, but it wasn't his biggest night. But to circle back to some of our issues, Zach, Slew only forced 5 turnovers. We talked about how they coughed it up 14 times. It's higher than you want. It's not a brutal number. It's not a number you can't overcome. But 5 is an incredible number for George Mason. They're already good at protecting the ball. There was a stretch, I guess, was it last year, or the year before, with Travis Ford's teams where they were not forcing turnovers at all. I mean, like it was like single digit turnovers for the other team every night. And we were concerned about that. And this is kind of what it's reminding me of lately, because here we have 5, the next game, Loyola 7. That's 2 fantastic numbers for our opponents. And I think we've got a full week to figure out how to kind of maybe put a little more pressure, force some more mistakes. We're good at forcing teams into bad shots, but how do we force them into more mistakes? I definitely think is a conversation point.
For sure. It's pretty fascinating that we are playing such good basketball while not turning the other team over.
Yeah.
Hardly at all. The bench points, again, 23-0. The Billikens only had 15 total bench minutes in a game that went to overtime. The bench, not a single field goal attempt from anyone off the bench. This feels now like a bit of a premonition for that Loyola game. Give me some bench, man. I know they're not going to be great, but you got to bring the bench along if you want to see, any chance in Brooklyn.
The bench, I think, in this game would have been less effective than in Loyola. I think Mason is just a worse matchup for him.
Yes.
Because they defend so well. They've got a little bit more physicality and size as well. So I think it would have been problematic in a few ways. It's just brutal that this game, Jimerson's on a busted ankle and it goes into overtime. And it had to be against them, right? So I think there's nothing is working in our favor in that regard. I do think 15 minutes from the bench and we're not, they're not even getting a look at the basket. It's just, it's concerning. 0 bench points all week. It's pretty wild.
Oh boy. This amazingly, the Billikens didn't attempt a free throw until well into the second half. I just can't. Again, another game where the officials just aren't very good either way.
Was it Bonaventure? Is that another team? There was one other team in our league that I remember thinking like they just don't foul at all. Like they don't get called for fouls.
Yes.
So yeah, Mason is one of those teams too. They have a very solid, sound defense that relies on slowing teams down, forcing bad shots. Like I respect what they do defensively.
Still frauds.
But to say that they just are not fouling, period. I struggle with a little bit.
Yeah,
I struggle with that one. So yeah, the fact that our first 2 free throw attempts came well into the second half and they both came on and 1 plays, just seems kind of silly to me.
George Mason outshot SLU at the 3-point line, 45.5 to 31.6. Thanks in large part to the Woodman. Woody Newton.
Yeah. He was obviously a big piece of that, but this is the second game, or Loyola is now the second game in a row where a team has shot well over 40% from 3, and 40% is really, to me, that if you're shooting 40% in a game, that's a very, very good, that's kind of the mark of like, okay, that's an elite shooting team if they're a 40% 3-point shooting team, but if they can do that in a game regularly, that's really good. So if you're giving up 46% in this game, 50% against Loyola, that's another conversation for the staff to have this week, is how to lock down the perimeter, because these were 2 games we could have won otherwise.
Mason got 6 additional field goal attempts. The streak is alive, Pete. SLU has gotten fewer attempts than opponents in how many games now?
I think it's all of them except in our games against lower division opponents. And now there have been a couple games where I think we've been even, where we've had the exact same amount of attempts as the other team. Loyola had 1 more attempt, so that was at least close. It was 58-57. But yeah, for the season, it's just become a fact of the matter now, that between letting up offensive rebounds, not getting offensive rebounds, and then losing pretty much the turnover battle almost every game, is we're just not getting as many looks. We also
Uh,
don't win the tip. There's
no, I
a
gotta ask
potential
that
extra possession
question.
right there.
What is there a good reason Robbie's still taking the tip?
I don't know. Is Kalu your best option there? What's
Yeah,
your
I
best?
mean, I would think so. Picard, Rockoff.
Put them in just for the tip and then pull
Yeah,
them out.
yeah. They're the
Like
they're
Grandy
great.
Glaze.
Yeah, they're Grandy Glaze without the pornography career.
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully. Well, they most student athletes do go professional in something other than sports, so you never know. You never know where their careers will take them. But
Oh, you're
I'm
welcome
hoping
for re-inspiring that quote from the commercial.
I'm hoping that's not where their careers go. But yeah, that's it's just become a fact of the matter now that we just don't
Yeah.
get as many field goal attempts as our opponents. So we've got to make the most of it.
Next up for the men, Saturday the 22nd against Rhode Island at home. That's a 1:30 tip, I believe. Um, yeah, I of course we get to play Rhode Island after 8 days of rest, and not like VCU or
Yeah.
Dayton or Loyola or George Mason.
Yeah,
I
or
refuse to acknowledge them as one of
I
the top
know.
teams
I just
in this
like, at
conference.
some point, ball don't lie, Zach. They keep squeaking it out, and I don't know how. I feel like Jesse in Breaking Bad screaming, "How does he keep getting
Yeah,
away with
yeah.
this?"
He can't
Like
keep getting away with this.
he can't keep getting away with this every time Mason wins. And we'll get into the last one was yet another one of those. But I would have loved this before one of those teams or against a road game. They're promising freshmen, Tyon Farrell took a leave of absence that was announced this past Monday. It sounds like he's not going to be back. I have no idea what's going on there. Rhode Island's 17-8 overall. They're 6-7 against A10 competition. So if you're good at math, you just figured out that they went 11-1 in non-conference play. Not that they were hot to start the season, not that they were great. They played one of the worst non-conference schedules in D1. Their loss was to Brown in double overtime, actually. Probably should have been a win. And they do get a little bit of credit for wins against Yale and Providence. Yale is still the class of the Ivy League. Providence is not a great Big East team, but they're a Big East team nonetheless. So you get some credit there. They beat Temple, which is basically a bottom half A10 program at this point. So I don't think that one's particularly noteworthy, even if it was on a neutral floor. In league play, they've got one win and two home losses. So they're relatively easy to predict. They generally win at home. They generally lose on the road, unless they play at Richmond where they can win. GW and VCU were the home losses. Sebastian Thomas is really the main player we got to focus on here. He's a potential all conference first teamer. 6'1" senior guard, averaging 18.1 points a game and 6 assists per game. He leads the conference not only in assists, but with steals at 2.2 per game. So he's just a super active player at both ends. He also has an unusually high number of game winners, 5 this season, 5 game winning shots.
Don't let him get the ball if it's close down to or up to.
I hope we're not in that situation, but yeah,
we sure as hell better not be in that situation against this team.
We'll still have stuff to complain about if that's the place that we're in. But David Green is a 6'7" senior. He scores 14.3 points a game, grabs 5.6 rebounds. He's a 42% 3-point shooter. So that tall shooter is always kind of a mismatch to watch out for. Jaden House is a 6'4" senior. He scores 11.2. He's the other double-digit scorer. Jamarcus Lawrence, 6'3" junior, who averages just under 10, but he's coming off a big week that included a game winner over St. Bonaventure at home. He shoots just over 37% from 3, so he's really their other most efficient player from outside, even if Thomas is a higher volume shooter. He's not as efficient shooter. Javonte Brown is the 7-footer to be worried about. He averages 8.6 and 6.2 on 66% shooting. he's a big, long 250 pounds, right? Like not a bulky guy, but he's just really long and solid. So I think he's a little bit underrated. I think he's going to be a little bit of a defensive mismatch to look out for. They're not a super efficient 3-point shooting team outside of Green and Lawrence, which means someone I haven't even mentioned will probably hit 7 threes because that's how things have been going.
Give me a white guy off their bench.
We'll find one.
Do you think do you think there's a line for that? Who can we hit the just pump the over to like 6, the over under to like 6, and just cash money, baby.
That's going to be an interesting gambling tip at this point is pick a guy who's going to go off from 3 against SLU. They get to the free throw line a ton. They're 10th in the nation in both makes and attempts.
What a bizarre
I know. I know for this, you look, some of it has to do with strength of schedule, but that's clearly part of their game. They're a very average 70.3%. So it's not like they're lethal, but it is part of their game to get to the line a lot.
So they're going to shoot 90 against us.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. They're a pretty average offensive rebounding team, but they're really a very, very good defensive rebounding team. SLU's not going to close the field goal attempt gap on the glass in this game. They have to take care of the ball. Yeah. Right. I mean, we just talked about it being an issue that we're getting outshot in every game. It's probably going to happen again in this game. I would bet on it if I gambled on sports. But you should not gamble
on sports.
They've got to get the turnovers down. That's where it's going to happen here because rebounding is going to be an issue. Look, we would have loved to have 8 days rest before VCU or Dayton or Loyola, like you said, especially a road game. But given the results this week and the fact that this is a home game against a bottom half team, SLU absolutely has to win this game.
Yes.
Must win. 5 games left. Take care of business at home against worse teams. Unquestionably, you cannot lose this game.
No. Let's go around the A10, Pete. Always enjoyable. The A10 is the gift that keeps on giving for 2 months out of the year.
Say what you will about other leagues that might be better fits or whatever. This league is entertaining.
It's a complete shit show. It is completely unpredictable.
Yeah.
Except that I know I have the secret, as I said on last episode. So, got to keep that up.
We'll see if you do.
Tuesday, the 11th, Loyola 87, Richmond 80 in OT. Again, I thought this was a harbinger of our game. I thought this was a clear sign that we were going to go in and beat Loyola. I am an idiot. Wednesday, the 12th, Rhode Island 68, St. Bonaventure 64. St. Joe's beats LaSalle 75-63. Dayton overcomes a leaky roof at Rose Hill to win 93-76. Again, there's something every night that you've never seen before, Pete.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a leaky roof at my son's game yesterday. Literally a trash can out on the floor before the game, catching the drops. And then during the game, there were 2 dads who volunteered and had mops and were going out there mopping and toweling the spot every time out. It was unreal. Nobody slipped on that spot. So I give them credit.
But they had a designated towel person.
We're talking about 3rd grade public school versus a division or the high level Division 1 game. But I guess it's 100-year-old gym, so that happens.
I was half expecting somebody to get up there with with a harness and hang from the rafters and patch it up mid-game. Patch it up
right on the spot.
Yeah. That didn't happen. Let's see. Davidson beats UMass 77-68. VCU escapes a scare against George Washington 80-72. This was closer than that, 8 points.
Yeah, the scoring that was at George Washington, right?
Yeah, yes.
Scoring 80 in that gym is quite an achievement.
Yes, it is. Pete, talk about Saturday the 15th because this was quite the day.
It it was, Zach. Another crazy day. George Mason, 58. St. Joe's.
Hey, at this point, I think it's just reality.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a crazy day. I think this is just how we live now.
it is. Down is up is down. George Mason,
It's like
58. St.
Australia.
Joe's, 57. The Hawks blew a big lead late, giving up an 11-0 run to let George Mason tie and then eventually win this thing. They had a shot to win it and missed. It was, there's some debate over whether it was a good shot or not. Basically, who was it? Was it Reynolds?
I don't know. It's in the car. I wasn't supposed to be watching this.
It was Reynolds or Brown who was he dribbled all the way around, went under the basket and dribbled back into the lane after he had gone to the far wing and then back. And then he was he had to take the shot, and he was kind of twisting and off balance and took a tough shot. So again, Mason's defense forced a bad shot, but he was like 8 feet away from the rim when he took it. It was not a terrible look. He was just completely twisted, off balance, whatever. So Mason escaped with one. Incredible. Speaking of escaping, Dayton 77, Duquesne 76. Duquesne led by 12 in the first half, and then Dayton closed it to 4. They gave up a few leads in the second half and then had to come back late to tie it at 76. Then, Zach, they foul by mistake. Malachi Smith made one free throw and Duquesne missed a 3 at the buzzer. One of those games that somehow both fan bases came away angry.
Three fan bases came away angry.
Well, probably more than 3, because I would imagine neutral A10 fans are not cheering for Dayton in that game, just based on everything.
I'm sorry, Johnny. Bluff blog. Sorry, buddy.
It's not fair. That's a brutal loss.
Yeah.
St. Bonaventure 73, UMass 59. I for a minute in our survivor pool, I thought about UMass because Bonaventure's been so bad lately, but I'm glad I didn't. Rhode Island 86, LaSalle 71, George Washington 74, Davidson 67, and Richmond 70, Fordham 66. Zach, I think we need to look at these standings, and we're going to see just how devastating these
I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
Because for the first time this season, SLU is outside the top 4. The team above has a game in hand. 3 of 4 teams ahead have the tiebreaker for now. We still have to play the back half of a couple of those. But bottom line is SLU is no longer in control of their own destiny for a double bye. They have to win, and they need Dayton or Loyola to finish on a cold streak these last 5 or 6 games. So that's, you could say, okay, they win out, they probably get it, but that's going to require a win at Dayton. That's going to require some, you got to win that Loyola return game at SLU. There's some tough stuff ahead.
I like our chances in return games. I mean, I don't like the way that we have been finishing games, but I feel like that VCU game gave me hope that we can do so. I mean, I know it was a home game compared to, at Dayton, but again, I think we've shown, the coaching staff at least has shown that they can make adjustments and figure things out between games. So I have hope. It's just a matter of closing it out, and whether that, I don't know what that includes. I would like to see more bench, but that's me. I've said it for like 5 times in this episode, and everybody listening's tired of fucking hearing about it.
Yeah, I know you do. It's funny to think about the best finish we had lately was sparked by Amari McCautry, right? Like it wasn't a starter. I guess you could argue Swope hitting that shot or something like that, but the best sequence of events, the best sequence of plays strung together was by a bench player. Now, I don't think that's going to be the answer every game, but it is food for thought. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Survivor picks. We're still alive.
We're still alive, and so you don't want to run down the standings overall?
Oh, we
Just
did.
leave it at our points.
Oh,
no, we
yeah,
did.
yeah.
We didn't yet. Okay.
Sure. George Mason, the frauds that they are still sitting at 12-1. I don't understand it. Voodoo, sold their soul to the devil. Ouija
That
board.
I no, I
Ouija
believe
board.
that. I believe they have done that.
Yes, that absolutely true.
Yes.
That band plays devil music. I don't know. They shake their hips and whatnot. It's weird. I don't like it. That's yeah. VCU 10-2, the true first place team in this conference.
Yep.
Dayton 8-5, Loyola Chicago 7-5, the Billikens half game behind that at 7-6. St. Joe's 6-6, Rhode Island, George Washington, and UMass all 6-7. Bonaventure is 6-8. Davidson and Duquesne are 5-7. LaSalle and Richmond are 4-9. Fire up the billboards, Fire Mooney Mafia. And Fordham 3-9, bringing up last place. Let's talk about our survivor picks because we are still alive. We have this might be the latest we've been around.
Oh, it definitely is. It's definitely unquestionably.
And you're still in the winner's bracket.
I'm still in the winner's bracket, and this is after our podcast pick flopped and immediately. Like we lost the first two picks, so the fastest you could possibly exit.
Yes.
We were out. But yes,
we've regrouped. We've regrouped.
Yeah.
We've regrouped. We've centered ourselves. We've settled in, and we're kind of cruising right now. Well, I'll say cruising because you have won already this week. Talk about our last week's picks, though.
Yeah. So last week I had Dayton over Fordham on the 12th, which was a win. I hadn't burned Dayton yet, so that was a handy one. That was an easy one. And then you took Davidson over Richmond on the 8th, and that was a win as well. So this week, Zach, you've got LaSalle over Richmond, and this is a tricky one.
I feel like I'm picking on Richmond now, and I think I need to change it.
I think you do have time to change if you want to, if you like, there's still a game this week. I mean, the tricky thing here is LaSalle has just been so bad lately. Like I'm starting to see things on Twitter, like there's rumors of mass transfers and Dunphy's kind of lost the team this year and stuff like that. Now, a lot of times you hear things like that, and then teams will all of a sudden, pull out a win. This team is way more athletic and talented than Richmond. Now, whether they will win remains to be seen. They're not as much of a system team as Richmond, but I do think that's an interesting game. I had Rhode Island over LaSalle, so I've already won. I feel good about where I am this week. I'm looking at the bracket right now. Heading into this week, there were still 92 first place entries still in the money. And then there were 99 second place entries still in the money. So that's where you are. 116 have been eliminated.
I think this week separates the ball knowers from the non-ball knowers.
Yeah, and there were there's quite a few people who were having to pick Rhode Island this week. It looks like there were some people who still hadn't used Dayton yet. So those two are already in the bag. But it looks like there will be a lot more attrition as the week goes on. So I don't know. We'll see. Do we get down to 70, 60, something like that this week? But still in the money. Should be pretty interesting. But now from here on out, like there's no good teams left for me to use. It's going to have to be, matchup dependent.
I think this week you need to pick 2 men in a garden.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe pick every week, Zach. And it had me thinking. 2 Men in a Garden. You said at the top of the show was your favorite local salsa, and I started thinking like I don't know if I know of any local salsas in Cincinnati, and so I looked it up, and the one I could find is called Two Amigos. So it's named very similarly to our friends 2 Men in a Garden. Two Amigos salsa, all natural salsa. And it turns out they sell it at Paula's Coleraine Market, which is pretty close to my house, like just one neighborhood away from me. Now, do I need to go buy it and try it and just say that, hey, St. Louis, as in all things where we compete with Cincinnati, we're the better of the two?
Yes. No, you don't.
Maybe
we know. We
know.
just know. We just know.
Is this like us buying like the Cincinnati, like the beer that went to their NIL,
yes,
or me buying the George Washington beer that went to their NIL fund? Maybe I'm maybe I'm not using my dollars where my heart is necessarily, but it's for science, you know?
Sure.
So I'll go check them out, but I have a hard time believing that Two Amigos is as good as Two Men and a Garden Salsa. And you should check them out, twomenindagarden.com, $9.99 nationwide shipping. It'll tell you where locally you can buy as well. And I can tell you from experience, it's most of the grocery stores you're already going to be going to in St. Louis. So be sure and get out and grab their stuff as soon as you can.
Pete, on to women's basketball. This one, I had this penciled as a win. Whether you can believe me or not is fine. 59-56 win at VCU, but it was wild in the way that it unfolded.
Yeah, I mean, they overcame a 16-point deficit to pull this out. VCU was up 9 at halftime, scored the first 7 points of the second half for that 16-point lead. SLU ended the run, called a timeout, and made a game of it after that. It was pretty crazy, Zach.
I think I need to start publicly doubting this team. I think I need to I need to just publicly give up on them every time.
Yeah,
I just need to keep doing that again. That worked so well for the last 2 years.
Yep. Maybe that's what they need for us to just kind of quit on them. But the last play of this game, or maybe not the last play, but what got us the game winner, if I'm not mistaken, was a Hannah Wallace steal. And that wound up being converted at the so she got the steal. And, SLU scored the last basket after that. I'm forgetting who got the last one. Was it Brooklyn Gray?
I'm not sure.
But Hannah Wallace got the steal off an inbound play to take it down. SLU was able to drain a bunch of clock, got the basket to go up 2 and held on to VCU didn't score. I guess went up 3. VCU didn't score after that. So credit to her. I think she played a really good game in this one.
Yeah, it was it was bizarre. Once again, this team finds its way down large amounts of points and somehow battles their way back in, and I don't understand fully how they continue to do that.
Yeah, we've seen them do it for a few years now. It's pretty wild, but VCU's shooting percentage went down every quarter until they were shooting 15.4% in the fourth. You gotta love that trend when your defense gets better over the course of the game. SLU has unfortunately been giving up the ball like crazy lately, but after 10 turnovers in the first half, they didn't turn it over at all in the second, which is really impressive. If you've watched them play, they do cough it up way too much. And the other bright note here, they shot 5 of 14 from 3, the best they had shot from outside in months.
Which really is crazy because it felt like this. It felt like this team was a 3-point shooting team early in the season.
Yes,
it felt that way. The stats may not fully reflect that, but it certainly felt like they were very much relying on Kennedy and then eventually Bergstrom.
Yeah, and I think where their best shooting stretch, like we said before, it was when Bergstrom was at her best, like when she was playing the most and hitting a bunch. So as she has kind of worked her way out of the lineup as they've gone bigger, they just haven't been shooting as well. So 5 of 14 is a figure I would absolutely take from this team in any game. I was a little bit wrong on that steal, by the way. Hannah Wallace got that with 57 seconds left. It's the one that put them up by 1 that they then built on.
She's been growing into her game.
Yeah, they didn't give up the lead after that. Like that was I think they call it the game winner because that was the one that kind of got the lead that they didn't relinquish. But anyway, Ken Calhoun played all 40 minutes in this game. She put up a crazy stat line, only 3 of 11 from the field, but she finished with 9 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, 5 steals, and 1 turnover. That's the number I really like to see out of her. But she almost had a triple-double. If this game won a couple more minutes, she probably would have. Brooklyn Gray SLU's only double-digit scorer with 14 off the bench. She scored 9 of those in the second half, and Shun Anumeli had all 9 of her points in the second half to help with a comeback win. So one of those games that just trended really well, Zach, after it looked like it was getting out of hand early in the second half.
Again, it's a game I think I penciled it as a win, but I think it's one of those games that could go either way. And you certainly want to see your team win on the road against a team who's right next to you in the standings. I think that's the most you can really ask for from a team in this position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this game was huge. It's the kind of game that could give you that chance, to you leap VCU, maybe you keep moving up over the end of the season. But unfortunately, the next game, Zach, a 59-49 loss at Richmond on Sunday the 16th, got away from them, which is a real shame because for 3 quarters, this game went about as well as it possibly could have for SLU. They had an 11-point lead with 1:12 to go in the third, 43-32. Then Richmond answered with an 11-0 run that carried into the fourth quarter. SLU ended it with a 2, but the Spiders rattled off another 6-0 run, and SLU didn't score its second basket of the quarter until the 102 mark left in the game. So unfortunately, they just went cold at the worst time because for a long time, I thought like they might actually win this thing.
Yeah, it was a great game. I was, of course, I kind of tuned in late, but I was shocked to see them kind of in the game from the beginning.
Yeah.
But you go up against the best team on the road. And in the fourth quarter, that's kind of what you will. The better teams push through that fourth quarter, and the bad teams will.
Yeah, and like you said, they're the best team in the conference. That's the worst possible time for your scoring to dry up. SLU goes 3 of 15 overall, 0 from 7 from 3 in the final quarter. Turned it over 6 times. The shot selection, Zach, in the first 3 quarters, much improved. Like they were really deliberate the way that they were playing offense for the most part, at least with the shot selection. The turnovers we'll get to was kind of a problem. But their shot selection was so much better. Ken Calhoun was kind of the unfortunate engineer of a lot of those turnover issues. She was just trying so many high degree of difficulty passes. And then
she really does seem to like go down these stretches where she thinks she's in her bag, but she's not really in her bag.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a really good way of putting it because she has 1 turnover at VCU, comes to Richmond and has 8 turnovers. And a lot of those were things like there's 2 Richmond defenders, and then behind them is where she's trying to thread the pass to someone in deep under the basket. It's not going to get through 2 defenders. Maybe you catch one of them looking the wrong direction or something, but it got caught up in between 2 defenders. And it's like, why are you trying that? Down 4, down 6, or whatever it was in the fourth quarter, that's not the time to be experimenting like that. So, that was frustrating. She fouled out with 37 minutes played in those 8 turnovers, 3 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists. The turnovers really they swung in the second half, right? At halftime, each team had 10, and then in the second half, SLU added 14. Richmond just 7. So the fourth quarter is when Richmond really kind of settled in and SLU kind of lost it. SLU also gave up 14 offensive rebounds, which stunk. But the shooting was much, much better just until the fourth quarter. But if you're not hitting shots, you can't let them get second chances. You have to protect the ball. Those things just weren't quite good enough in this game to overcome a team like Richmond.
Yeah. When you play this team well, again, Richmond looked like the team they have all season in that fourth quarter.
Yep.
They shot 60% from the field, 8 of 12 from the line. The Billikens only attempted 1 free throw in the second half, and 4 in the game compared to 21 for Richmond. I don't know. The intelligent half of Zach Miller says you're not guaranteed an equal number of free throws.
Yeah.
But this big dumb heart says otherwise in these scenarios.
We just talked about like SLU men not shooting a free throw until deep into the second half. In this one, they had one free throw attempt in the second half, and I understand Richmond's going to have the lead there. They're going to have the margin because SLU had to play from behind at the very end and put them on the line a couple times. So you're going to wind up with some more attempts that way. And you're at home, blah, blah, blah. Everything goes your way. They play a little bit different style. But 21-4 I didn't watch all of this game. I watched a pretty good chunk of it, and I don't get it. What can I say? Tiara Simon led SLU with 19 points. She was perfect, 8 for 8 from the field until she missed one right at the end. Brooklyn Gray had 15. The ghost of Peyton Kennedy went scoreless in this game, 0 of 4 shooting, all three-pointers in 15 minutes. She's obviously not at full strength. I don't know if she will be the rest of the way, but she has just been a sort of less than quality facsimile of herself.
It's Kellen Thames.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because that's the other thing is she's playing on what seems to be a minutes restriction too. It was 15 minutes in this game. I think that's kind of been around where she is lately. Unfortunately, it sucks because she was supposed to be an all conference player.
Yeah.
And here we are in conference play and she's just not able to continue or, to contribute the way that we thought she would. It stings though, Zach, because they had a real chance to steal one against the best team in the league on the road, stay in the hunt for a first round bye. Now they're pretty much locked into a bottom 6 place and a game on the first day of the conference tournament. I think they would have to win out. There's 3 games left. They would have to win out and the 2 teams ahead of them would have to lose out for them to have a chance to avoid it. And, the odds of that happening are pretty small.
Next up for the Billiken Women, Wednesday the 19th against Dayton at home. It's the pink game, whatever we're calling it now.
Yeah.
The Billikens lost 87-76 at Dayton on January the 22nd. Since then, Flyers have gone 2-4 with wins over Washington and Loyola. Losses to kind of usual suspects right now. Richmond, George Mason, Rhode Island, and Davidson. So the class of the league there. Yeah. It's still a very defensive team, which makes that SLU Dayton score that more surprising. If SLU is going to have a shot to avoid a first round game, they have to pick off winnable games against teams ahead of them in the standings, especially at home. This is one of them. And then Saturday the 22nd, they head to Duquesne. This is another one, Pete.
Yeah, the Dukes are 7-7 in the league. They're 16-9 overall. Megan McConnell from the Pittsburgh McConnell basketball family. You might know TJ McConnell. And then is their grandpa, Bob McConnell, who kind of Tillett mentioned in our interview with her a couple of years ago that he was one of her, mentors back in the day. So yeah, the McConnells are legendary around Pittsburgh. Anyway, she scores 18.3 points a game to go with 7 rebounds a game, 5.1 assists, and 4.2 steals per game. So she leads the way on both ends, but it's not just her on the defensive end. This team forces a ton of turnovers, and they have a plus 6.6 turnover margin per game this season. They score 73.6 points a game. 22.5 of those are points off of turnovers. So like literally over a third of their offense is created off turnovers. SLU has to win the rebounding battle here. They're not great on the glass. So win the glass, take care of the ball, limit the damage that McConnell does, and you give yourself a pretty good shot to win. Otherwise, this team seems like a team that's just pesky as hell, and it's one player who kind of leads the way.
The standings, Richmond, top of the league, 13-1. Some might say 12-2. Not me. I don't know. Some people might. A very real Mason women's basketball team is 13-2. They are killing teams. They are blowing teams out.
Yeah, they're really
that is for real. This Mason team, this men's team, still not.
good.
St. Joe's 11-3, Davidson 10-4, Rhode Island 9-5, UMass 9-6, Dayton 8-6, Duquesne and Fordham 7-7, VCU 5-9, the Billikens 5-9, George Washington 4-10, Loyola 3-12, LaSalle 2-13, and Bonaventure 1-13. Man, this conference is just 500 so far. I don't know.
Amazing how such a good conference can beat itself like that. Zach.
It's unbelievable. 500 conference, 500 in conference play this season.
That's becoming my favorite.
It is. You just ask the coach and see if they're dumb.
Yeah.
Let's talk baseball real quick. This is an interesting weekend for the Bills. The preseason poll, the Billikens were picked to finish third in the A-10 behind VCU and Richmond. Oddly enough, the Billikens got the most first-place votes with 5. VCU got 4. Richmond got 1. The other two got 125 total points, and SLU got 124. So this was basically a three-way tie for what's going to happen in this league, or the expectation at least. George Washington and Davidson each got a first-place vote, and they're 4th and 5th. So, I mean, this league, whether it's a good league, it's a top heavy league, and nobody has a clue.
No clue.
St. Mary's game 1, 9-4 win Friday the 14th. SLU was down 4-0 after 5 innings and then scored 9 unanswered runs, including 6 in the 6th. Welcome to college baseball in game 1. JT Crabb 3-run homer. A few batters later, Brendan Stressel hit his own 3-run shot. Newegg 2-run home run in the 7th. That's Austin. And Crabb added an insurance run in the 8th. Steven Hernandez got the win. Charlie Weber got the save. Pete, Friday and Saturday, please.
Yeah, did not go the way that first Friday game went. In game 2, a 7-inning game, 16-1, the Bills lost. They took a 1-0 lead with a sac fly on the top of the first.
Stop the count.
Stop. Just go home right there. Shake their hands. Head out. All hell broke loose after that sack. The Gales scored in all 6 innings in which they batted. It was 5-1 when they exploded for a 9-run 5th inning. SLU was out hit 17-2. Ben Cherico took the loss in the game.
I should say so.
Anybody on the mound. Yeah. 16-3 was the loss on Saturday the 15th. Another 7-inning game, tied 3-3 after 2 innings. Then St. Mary's added 2 in the 3rd, 4 in the 4th, 1 in the 5th, and 6 in the 6th. SLU had just 3 hits in this game. Carl Ralam, how are we saying his name?
Ramlam, I don't know.
Josh Cunningham and Richie Simprick took they pitched 2 innings apiece, and Cunningham took the loss. On Sunday the 16th, Zach, another one. 9-2 was the loss this time, a little more respectable, but another quiet day at the plate for the Bills, who trailed 4-2 in the middle of the 5th, gave up 5 runs in the bottom half of the inning. They had 5 total hits, 2 errors, 4 walks. They left 6 on base. 3 of those 5 hits were doubles, but they just couldn't string any together, coming in 3 different innings with those. Jack Weber started and took the loss. The game actually had a predetermined time limit due to travel, so they called it after 5.5 innings and headed home. Zach, they got outscored.
College baseball is so fucking weird.
45-15, and it looks worse if you take that 9-4 out of the picture, because then it's 41-6. One bright spot though, Hayden Moore was 5 for 10 from the series. So
let's just hope St. Mary's is really good.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'd like that was my thought, honestly, after the series, right? Like the first game, really promising, and then these last 3, you're just like, ooh, I hope this is like a top 40-ish team.
Yeah. Next up for the Bills, Friday the 21st through Sunday against North Alabama at home. That will be colder than a well digger's ass.
I can't believe how early he said it. I heard Hendo say it, that this is the earliest they've scheduled at home, and man, oh man, I think they're going to pay for it.
Yes. Holy shit. I don't think these games are going to be played, right? Like, no way.
We'll see. We'll see.
Tennis. Men are up February 20th at Eastern Kentucky. The women dropped a 7-0 loss to Nebraska. Close to the doubles match in a couple of the matches. But that's it. 5-2 loss against Omaha at Nebraska. Fiorella, Duran, and Madison Hill got singles victories for the Bills. Duran's match was close at number 1, but Hill dominated in the 4 spot. Friday the 21st, they'll take on Western Illinois. Softball and track, Pete.
Yeah, softball was off this week, recovering from Hawaii. Those who didn't defect and made their way back home on February 21st to 23rd, we'll play
defect to the Aloha, bruh.
I know they're back to harsh reality, because I think Evansville is going to be pretty cold too, where they will play the ACES tournament against the home school UT Martin, Ohio State, and Western Michigan. Indoor track and field, luckily indoors. The John Garland Invitational at Indiana State will be Saturday, February 22nd. It's the last regular season meet before the A10 championships on February 28th to March 1st in Virginia Beach. And they are, really lucky to be doing that inside, Zach, because, man, do I feel bad for the bat sport's going to be outside in the Midwest this week.
A lot of hands in pain. A lot of stinging hands.
Yes.
All right. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Seriously, if you're still listening to the point, we owe this entire show to you. So go Bills, Pete.
Go Bills.